Hi, I'm Shaomei. I'm the founder and CEO of Empower.org. On behalf of my co-authors, Jingjin and Gilly Leshed, I will present the autoethnography study of my own experience with video conferencing as a person who stutters. First, I want to share a bit of background about myself that is relevant to this study. I'm a person who stutters. You may not notice that when you talk with me, because I stutter covertly most of the time. I began to stutter when I was a kid, and I used to try very hard to hide my stutter. But I have been working on accepting my stutter as well as my identity as a person who stutters. Also, I have been working remotely for the past four years, and I'm running a nonprofit organization, so I have a lot of meetings with my colleagues and collaborators, and I conduct my meetings almost exclusively on video conferencing platforms such as Zoom. As a result, video conferencing is a very important part of my day. I spend on average 3 hours a day in video conferencing calls. I also want to share three things about stuttering to set up the context. First, as a neurological disorder, stuttering is highly variable and inherently social. That means how somebody stutters changes a lot across individuals, the situations, as well as who they are talking to. In my case, I rarely stutter at home talking to my family, but I could stutter severely at public speaking situations such as the CHI conference. Second, beyond the typical observable speech behavior challenges such as repetition of sounds and loss of eye contact, people who stutter also struggle with negative thoughts and feelings about stuttering and could develop poor self-image and avoidance behaviors. As a result, modern stuttering therapy has evolved from focusing on speech motor behaviors to incorporating mental health approaches such as cognitive behavior therapy and mindfulness to help people who stutter to cope with the emotional and cognitive challenge with stuttering. So, this motivates our autoethnography study, which was built upon our previous interview study with adults who stutter about their video conferencing experience. While the previous study uncovered key benefits and challenges, the findings were still mostly around the behavior aspect of stuttering. Given the variability of stuttering and its emotional and cognitive impact on people who stutter, the autoethnography method allows us to 1. Better understand how the experience changes across situations, topics, and audiences. And 2. An in-depth view into the mental challenges at the intersection of stuttering and video conferencing. The autoethnography study spanned over 15 months, in which I collected data before, during, and after 43 Zoom meetings I attended, covering a variety of contexts and situations. To collect the data, I developed an experience questionnaire for myself to fill in before and after each meeting. The questionnaire was structured in roughly 6 parts, in which I documented and reflected on my speaking goals and who I was speaking with, their gender, status, and whether or not they stutter, and how fluent was my speech, and how effortful and spontaneous was my speech, and how much I avoid certain words, sentences, people, or situations such as self-introduction, and in the end, what was my general sentiment and feelings. I also make sure to have a lot of open-ended questions in which I can fill in-depth reflection and more details about that situation. As the data shows, video conferencing is challenging for me as a person who stutters. In 20 out of 43 meetings, I experienced somewhat high physical tension, which impacted my speech fluency. My fluency fluctuated, ranging from 1 to 2 disfluencies in total, my baseline level, to a severe stuttering of several disfluencies per sentence. As a result, I experienced mixed emotions, ranging from enjoyment, hopefulness, pride, to frustration, embarrassment, and exhaustion as a result of stuttering. Our quantitative analysis also find some key factors associated with my overall meeting satisfaction. For example, I'm less likely to feel satisfied in meetings where I was physically struggling with my speech. On the other hand, I'm more likely to feel satisfied when stuttering does not affect the content of what I say in meetings. Next, I will share 3 vignettes from 3 representative meetings to better illustrate the high-level insights that we just saw. The first one is a technical panel about speech AI technology, and I was the only panelist who stutters. It was a high-stress situation because it was a professional setting and I was expected to be an expert. I self-disclosed about my stutter at the beginning, but I still struggled a lot in my speech. Nevertheless, I was able to raise my hand whenever I had something to say, as I was compelled to represent the stuttering community and advocate for our needs in the space of speech technologies. My ability to push through speech struggles and express myself authentically contribute to a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. In the second vignette, my satisfaction mainly came from the support of my audience. It was a stuttering community conference with over 200 people in audience, and most of them I didn't know. It was a normally high-stress situation, and I started my speech with a lot of stuttering. However, as soon as I switched to the gallery view and see my audience, I noticed that almost all of them have turned on their camera and seems very engaged and attentive to what I was saying. People were nodding, smiling, and keeping eye contact with me. So I feel very supported and an instant connection with my audience, and very much enjoyed this otherwise stressful speaking experience, thanks to a conscious effort by the audience. In contrast, the third vignette shows how a normally low stress situation could go badly. It was an introduction call with a friend of a friend who was interested in volunteering for my organization. I started the meeting with low stress and excitement, but my self-disclosure was met with a cold reaction. As I moved on to share background about myself and our organization, I was interrupted and asked to speak more efficiently, to demonstrate an elevator pitch. It was not an unreasonable thing to ask, but at that moment it triggered lots of big feelings in me. I immediately felt self-conscious about my speech and was reminded of negative experiences in the past of being ignored and mocked for how I talk. Those feelings were so disturbing that I ended up withdrawing from the conversation and left the meeting feeling traumatized. As you can see, the autoethnographic experience are highly personal and subjective, but it also allows us to examine video conferencing through a magnifying lens of stuttering and reveals some universal tension and opportunities in the design of video conferencing. Video conferencing is exhausting for everyone, especially for people with disabilities. The lack of physical co-presence masks our physical and emotional labor to other meeting attendees, leading to further marginalization and disengagement of already marginalized voices. With increasing interest on productivity tools such as AI note takers, I think it's more important than ever to design for the soft side of video conferencing, such as authenticity, empathy, a sense of belonging, and emotional connection with others. Highlighted by the stuttering experience, those elements are universally appreciated in human communications and very often will make a meeting meaningful and satisfying for all of us. So, instead of focusing on the words spoken, why don't the technology help us pick up the meaning of the silence between words and support us during those moments of embarrassment, hesitancy, and isolation with compassion and solidarity? Vulnerability is another opportunity for video conferencing. Vulnerability is both common and powerful, especially for people with disabilities. As I practiced self-disclosure and open stutter in meetings, I was being vulnerable, but also saw my authenticity and trust, which then invites others to reciprocate. Very often, people do reciprocate and also show me actual attention, engagement, and empathy, which led to a deeper, more intimate connection, even at the very first meeting, something both rare and beautiful in the age of video conferencing. Yet, vulnerability comes with risk. My stutter makes some people uncomfortable and sometimes do or say things that are hurtful and traumatizing without even realizing it. Can video conferencing platform help us be vulnerable yet safe? For example, inspired by the practice of appending preferred pronouns after one's name, we can design tools to both encourage self-disclosure and inform all meeting attendees about how to respectfully react to others' self-disclosure of vulnerable identities. To summarize, our research shed light on the hidden cost of video conferencing for people who stutter, uncovering the substantial emotional and cognitive efforts that other meeting attendees are often unaware of, thus unable to accommodate for. Having a satisfying experience on video calls is hard but not impossible. Even with significant speech challenges, I was able to find meaning and satisfaction in my video conferencing experience through openness, mindfulness, and self-compassion. But I can't and shouldn't do it alone. The responsibility of making sure every voice is heard and respected need to be shared by all meeting attendees, as well as the technology platforms. Lastly, I want to advocate for the adoption of autoethnography as a research method, especially for HCI researchers from underrepresented, marginalized groups, as it not only allows us a longitudinal, in-depth view of the otherwise hidden struggles, but it also asserts our epistemic agency over our lived, marginalized experience with technologies, something I find extremely empowering in my own practice. If you are interested at work like this, please feel free to reach out, and you can also contact me if you have any feedback, comment, and questions. Thank you.